Major League Journeymen back in action. We have the most attractive free agent on the market, fresh off a trip to Florida, right, Dax, where most people collect a tan. You're
I was to
collecting
say,
freckles
can't you
down there.
tell? Can't you
Yeah,
tell I was just coming back from there?
I see 7 new freckles. That's what you picked up down there, right?
I don't necessarily tan. I pink. This is what all redheads do, and so this is actually a really good tan in the redhead community. I don't know if you guys know that, but yeah, man, Thanksgiving was great. It was lovely. Great to be back in Nashville.
It is a lovely blush on you. You do look refreshed, energized, like a man in the off season. The other gentleman that we have here, D, let me just go through some of your accomplishments as I was doing some recon here. 3-time MLS Cup champion, 2-time Campeones Cup, US Open Cup, NCAA champ with Akron, Gold Cup, Herman Trophy winner, 2-time All-Star, 2-time Goal of the Year in MLS. I mean, this shit is exhausting, D. And basically, what you do is you essentially win. I mean, that's pretty much it. Darlington Nagbe is joining us, who has fresh off the inking of a new contract as well.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me too.
Hey, let
Yeah.
me before we get into that because we do want to talk more about that. The other knucklehead on this podcast that makes up the tripod, Alan Gordon, is not here, not joining us today. He's on a flight down to
Mhm.
Florida. I guess he's going to go play golf. I don't know. Maybe the mortgage market is treating him really well the last couple of months. I'm not sure. But when I texted the boys and said, "Hey, we got a whale coming on the pod," one of my favorite guys, not just one of my favorite players to watch and to play with, but one of my favorite guys to chat with and hang out with. Mr. Nagy's coming on. Direct quote from Alan Gordon in the group chat. Uh, just just he goes. This is when we were talking about you potentially coming on. He goes, "Just tell him I am on the show. Guy fucking loves me." I need to know if there is any truth to that statement right there.
Yeah, I love Gordo, man. He was at my first. I think he was at my first camp I went to actually. My
Was
first
he
camp I
really?
got called up to. Yeah.
Was it a January camp?
No, it was a qualifier down in
Oh,
Miami, I think.
okay.
Yeah, he was there. Kyle was there, Beckerman. He was so cool and chill too. Like, he surprised me. Playing against him, I was like, ain't no way. This is
Yeah,
somebody
Kyle,
I gotta
we
avoid.
had Kyle on the pod, and he is
Uh
very much chill demeanor off the field, absolute killer on the field.
huh.
Gordo, he's just Gordo, man. He's
Hmm.
just happy. He's just happy to be there. He was just happy to be kicking the
Yeah.
ball around.
Hmm.
KB's the man. We were he was my roommate. We lived together in Denver when I was out there with the Rapids before he got traded to Salt Lake. But when we were both single and running the town, running around Denver, that was
That
yikes. That was
was a good
fun.
time.
We had a good time. I think yeah, KB was he was just as aggressive off the field as he was on the field during those days. That was a good phew, he's a fun individual. Gordo, though, on the other hand, man, he's a handful. And I think we actually might cover some ground here without him being on the pod. So D, let's jump in. Let's start with the new deal, man. Let's talk
Yeah.
us through kind of where and how and
Hmm.
where we ended up.
Yeah, so obviously, me being from Ohio, Cleveland area, so obviously, I think it puts me in a position 2 years to end it here. So I'm happy about that, and not just that, but obviously the team and coach and the job he's done coming in, and the players that we have, a good group of young talent, and then myself in there as well. As one of the older players now, which is still crazy, strange
You're
to
a
see.
vet.
I know,
Yes.
right? It's weird. I'm used to
Grizzled.
having guys. Yeah, I'm used to having guys. Asking for advice, asking them for advice, but now it's like the other way around. I'm like, man, now I gotta give answers to questions that I used to have. But it's strange. It's crazy to see though. It's crazy to see. But yeah, I'm happy about it. Club seems to be happy about it, and I'm looking forward to it. Got a couple more years
Did
left.
I hear you say that in 2 years it will be to end it in Columbus? I mean, are you predicting
Mm.
that? Like, as in 2 years is enough for you?
I mean, you never know. As of now, yeah. As of now, yeah. I remember Bradley was here, right? Phillips,
Yeah.
he said
Yeah.
that a couple times. He's like, yeah, it's the last year. It's the last year. I think this is the last year, and he just kept on going. So, probably 2 years and an option. So we'll see. We'll see how I feel after that. If they want me
Dude,
around
so
still.
you've been I think pretty intentional with that in your past too, with US and kind of wearing the badge with the national team.
Mhm.
How did you get to that conclusion?
Uh, Upending it at a certain point.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's more I kind of plan my life off the field, expecting, I kind of go off of that where I'm expecting to be, and then I kind of make the soccer decision after that. So I think my life off the field is kind of, it's been great and it's turned out how I wanted it to turn out. So I think if things just keep going, in that direction, yeah, I just kind of use that to kind of plan things.
So that's really interesting, man. So
Yeah.
you kind of how do you evaluate your off season? Obviously, you're
Hmm.
looking to extend this season
Hmm.
for a little while and head into
Yeah.
an off season, and then do you kind of reevaluate, regroup, and set goals for yourself? You set personal goals, family goals, on the field goals. Like, what does your process look like?
Uh, I would say just personal goals mostly. Looking at my kids, they're 10 or about to be 10, so 9, 7, and 5 now. So kind
Okay.
of seeing where they're going to be at in 2 years. My youngest, he's probably going to start playing in about 2 years, and then
Yep.
my wife, she's been driving the other two around a lot now. I think she thinks it's busy. I'm like, wait till they start traveling. She doesn't play
Yep.
soccer;
Yeah,
she
bro.
plays softball, so she thinks this is like a lot. I'm like, nah, babe, like it gets worse than this. It gets worse than this. So,
D,
uh,
that's something that I think more players
mhm,
I think can take to heart in terms of your process.
mhm,
And you have three kids now.
mhm,
You're a grizzled vet like myself.
mhm,
And I can speak from my experience as well, and I'm
mhm,
sure Dan went through the same process. But as you get older, and as you go through your hierarchy of things that are important to you in the latter
mhm,
stages of your career, that changed a lot for me with regards to now versus when I was 22, 23 years old. And
mhm,
so I can totally understand and respect that process of how you came to, want to be around more, want to be home more with
mhm,
your kids, and want to, spend more time, enjoying what that has to offer off the field. Because the truth is that as professional athletes, we do miss a lot of time with our families off the field, right? Whether it's weekends, whether it's preseason, long road trips. And I started to prioritize also, like I really want to be around my kids. You know what I mean? I really want to be around my family as much as possible. I really want them with me going on this journey through the latter stages of my career, for them to be able to come on the field and celebrate wins and be in the locker room after games. And it's such a unique experience
mhm,
being able to have your kids with you in a place that you grew up in, Ohio. How special is that for you now in a different phase of your life and your
mhm.
career? Like, I know that family was like priority number one, two, and three for you. Isn't it like, is it such a great feeling to be able to share that with your kids coming off the field after games, being able to share that with your family, and especially playing at a place where you're happy?
Yeah, for sure, 100%, 100%. You know what I mean? And even though, like you said, those, the way I prioritize, my off the field life as opposed to my on field life, I don't think it's too much of a popular way to do it or a popular decision. But I
Right.
think I've stuck with it, and I don't expect anyone to kind of do it how I've done it. I think everyone's different. Everyone's situation is different. I think the goal for me was always at some point to play in Columbus. Where someone's goal might always be to they got to get to Europe at some point, or they got to get to this club or that club. I think for me the goal
100%.
was always get to Columbus, and like you said it now, like on the field after games, after wins, my kids are there. My wife is there. My sisters get to come on the field. My mom, my in-laws are there. So you know what I mean. It's a good life. I'm happy that I was fortunate enough to have Columbus be interested in me and want to bring me here and want to bring me home. It doesn't always
Mhm.
work out that way. So I think I just been really fortunate in how everything's panned out.
D, before we move on,
Hmm.
you mentioned different players having different priorities.
Hmm.
Sometimes, for certain players, that's getting to Europe as soon as possible. And look,
Hmm.
I'll speak from my personal opinion of you, and I'm going to take away how much I like you off the field, and I'm going to
Hmm.
strictly keep this to your contributions and you as a player
Hmm.
on the field.
Hmm.
You are easily one of the most talented players that I've ever seen play in MLS, step foot in
Hmm.
MLS, in terms of your skill set, what you bring to a team. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that would agree with the statement I just made. I think in
Hmm.
your prime, you could have easily played in a top five league in Europe. I think that you could have played for a Champions League club. I think that there was probably no shortage of options for you to be able to do that. I'm curious as to what your process was like, kind of evaluating if you wanted to go to Europe, if you had the option to go to Europe. And I know you probably had a few options back in the day to be able to go there. And I'm just kind of curious as to how you came to the decision to want to stay in the U.S. And I know that a lot of it is family related. But for me, man, it would have been great for me to see you walking out on the field during that Champions League anthem, man, and seeing you rep from a guy who literally, me and Guards were talking about this and texting about it, a guy who's done it at every single level of the U.S. soccer pyramid. You played in college, you played in PDL, you went GA, right? You've played on the East Coast, you played on the West Coast. Like, you've done it at every level. You've played for the national team. Like, I think that, for me, obviously, your motivations, and like, no one can step into your body and make decisions for you, right? You've got to make decisions based on what's best for yourself. But like, I'm just curious if there was ever a moment where you were really close to going to Europe, and if that was ever a thought process in your mind.
I think the closest I ever been was probably early 20s. I think Spenny and I went over to Scotland. It was Celtic. It was around this time actually. It was around Thanksgiving. And he was like, "You want to check it out?" I was like, "Let's go see." They were playing Champions League, and it was against Barcelona. And at first, I just kind of went over there, just like, let's just go check it out and see.
Yeah.
So he was like, "All right, let's go." He was down, and then we went there, and like you said, that Champions League anthem came on. Man, I looked at him. I was like,
Give you chills, huh?
Yeah, it was just in that at Celtic Park, right? Is that what it's called? I forget what it's called. Celtic Park.
Pretty sure.
But yeah, man, yeah, it was just it was wild. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I think I surprised him when I told him like, yeah, let's make it happen. But then of course, if things didn't work out, transfer fees and things like that. So
right.
I wasn't crushed or anything like that. For me, it was just like, okay, like that was a window of opportunity that opened up, and then I was excited about that situation. I think the coach was Brandon Rodgers at the time. I think that was probably the biggest thing. Champions League and Brandon Rodgers was the biggest thing that attracted me to it. Obviously, to speak English there as well for my wife and all that. So
sure.
I think that was the one that I probably chased the most. And then I think before I ended up in Atlanta, when I left Portland, that was more England, looking at chances and opportunities there. And Spencer was like, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. I was with the national team at the time. And then I don't think I ever told anyone, but, so I was looking to go before Atlanta. I was looking to go there. Kind of whatever bids would come in, I probably would have taken a chance at those. But then my wife got pregnant with our last one.
Yeah.
With our third one, we didn't plan him, but obviously,
Oops. To the best, man.
Yeah, crazy story, man. It was so funny because I asked her the day before. I was like, "Hey, what are we doing? We're having a third. Like, what is it?" And she was like, "Hell no, like we're good. We're good with two." And then her friend had a dream. The next day, she was pregnant. Right after we had that conversation, it was crazy. It was crazy,
dude. That's wild. You're saying
her friend
that is legit.
That for you guys.
Exactly the same thing that my wife and I went through with going from 3 to 4. We had 3, and we kind of been on the fence, like, should we go for 4? And it was the night before. We're like, all right, we're not gonna do it. We're set on 3. Sure enough, the next morning, woke up, left, and on the trip, Kel was like, you know what? I think I need to go to the CVS. And I was like, what? He's like, well, we're going to find out. And I was like, okay. But, as you know, the unplanned ones, man, it changes your life, but in so many good ways.
Exactly. And I'm like, I look at him, I'm like, man, I can't even picture a life without him, It's just like, out of 3, he was the one we didn't plan, but like for sure we would have had 3 regardless if we would have planned it or not planned it. So I think after I found that out, I was like, just, where can I go within the league that, that's not Europe, but still gives you that excitement, that feeling. Sure. At that time, Atlanta was popping, still popping, but that was like, Taka was there.
That was hot.
Was there. Joseph is
Atlanta
there. It
was
was
hot.
like, man.
Yeah.
It was like, man, I still get asked the most about that team out of, all the teams I've been on. I get asked about, those couple of years.
I think Dan was there covering you.
Yeah, Dan was there
for most of your time. I think we want to talk about you were kind of the free agent trailblazer, right? I mean,
you were the free.
You're getting flown over on Arthur's PJ, huh?
Darlington, you were the fruits of my labor getting free agency.
If Gordo was on here right now, he would be telling you to kiss his feet, the ground that he walks on, because he opened up all those doors for us.
Just so we're clear, Gordo didn't do a goddamn thing when it comes to the players union. Not
nothing,
anything, which is pretty much part and parcel for the way that he operates in general. But I do. There's a lot there, D, that you were just touching on. But can you talk? I do want to hear what that was like. That I don't think we ever talked about that. The story of how the Jet, like, I mean, there was so much hoopla around
Yeah.
this coup of essentially Atlanta picking up Darlington Nagbe, which was like
Yeah.
in MLS circles at the time was mind blowing because
Mhm.
Atlanta was really, really exciting. They had a
Mhm.
really established team. They had some real players in Almiron and Joseph and Parkhurst. And I mean, they were in a great spot. And then
Mhm.
sure enough, the five stripes don't stop, right? That was their motto.
Yeah.
They're talking about reporting that there's a private jet to pick up Darlington Nagbe. What can you give us a little bit behind the scenes on that? Because I have always been intrigued by that.
Mhm. Yeah, it was. I think I was in Portland 7 years, which is a long time. There was nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it. I had a good time there. I just wanted something new. That's why England was an option. That's why I was entertaining that. If opportunities would have happened with that. But I think, like I said, the next best thing to that was Atlanta to me. And talk to Spencer and my agent. We all love spinning. And he was like, "Yeah, for sure, let's talk about it." And then they said, "Yeah, they were interested." And then for me, once I heard there was interest. I said, "Hey, if Tata wants it, like I'm down." No matter,
Mhm.
sometimes clubs and things can happen. Clubs want you, but might not be a
Sure.
club. But for me, I think it was huge that Tata wanted me there. So when I heard Tata wanted me there, I was like, "All right, yeah, for sure, let's make it happen." And then yeah, the jet. My mom and I got on the jet. She didn't. I kept telling her, I was like, "Yeah, the jet's coming, mom." Blah blah blah. She's like, "Okay, like whatever." I'm like, "Mom, that's what they told me." I was like, "If I'm lying to you, it's because they lied to me. Like we're here, we're waiting, we're waiting for the jet to come." And then once it pulled up, she still didn't believe it. She was looking out there, and we were
your
on the
mom,
jet. She stood.
your
She's
mom trying to
still
keep
like,
you humble, bro. She's like,
yeah,
they ain't
she
sending no
is.
jet for you.
I know, right? She's like, nah, they're probably gonna send something different for you. You're probably just sitting here. They're gonna come here, just gonna do business here or whatever. I was like, nah,
That's it.
mom, Jets really's coming. But nah, that was man, that
So
whole
so
experience.
you and your mom got picked up by the jet.
Yeah, so it was off season, and I was home in Cleveland. And then that's when the deal happened. That's when the deal went through the trade. And they're like,
Uh-huh.
all right, come in and meet some fans and do everything, come take a tour and all that. I was like, oh, of course, perfect. Why not? I always
Who'd they
wanted to live
send?
in the
Who was there?
who came? Carlos came. Who else came with Carlos? Paul McDonough came, and then I'm missing someone. I think those are the two big guys that came. That came
They
with
didn't bring any they didn't bring any strippers or anything?
nah.
Yeah,
Nah,
I'm
my wife
sure
would have
Mom and
turned that jet
Nagbe,
around.
I'm sure Mom and Nagbe would have been
Mom,
really
actually
pissed about
actually the jet didn't come. It turns out it didn't show up.
Yeah, I remember that whole thing. Like the video came out and all that. I was like, man, like, you know me. I was just like, this is a lot,
Yeah,
Yeah,
bro,
I'm just
you
coming.
were
I'm
it's
probably
not
just
so
really in
uncomfortable.
your profile, right?
yeah. I'm just coming here to kick a ball around and just try to win. Then they
They're
had to
re-
do
they're
all
they're releasing a new music video for you, dude.
for real, right? They had the G wagons waiting and stuff to pick us up. My mom's sitting
Yes.
there looking like, what are they doing, with my baby? Like,
I love
but
it.
but it was cool though. And then once I got there, and it was just up from there. It was just up from there. Everything kind of, obviously, like any new situation, took a couple of games, couple of preseason to kind of get used to everything, get used to Tata. But once that happened, then it was great from there.
Yeah, man, that's I mean, Tata, we've talked a lot about Tata with his inclusion
Hmm.
in Miami this year, and
Hmm.
and what you had mentioned, kind of everybody essentially asking about that Atlanta
Yeah.
team because they were so much fun to watch.
Hmm.
I think I see a lot of similarities, but I'd be interested to hear from you in terms
Hmm.
of some of the great teams that you were on. So obviously you won with Portland, you
Hmm.
won with Atlanta, obviously won with Columbus already. But what are some of the similarities that
Hmm.
you're seeing to this team right now that you're
Hmm.
on that maybe you can point to with some of the other MLS Cup champions that you've been with?
Hmm. I'll say probably this team's kind of a mixture of the other, the team that I won with in Portland and the Atlanta team. We got some key players, Cucho, Nal Rossi, just key players that are doing good things, big things that got their names out there. And then the chemistry that we had in 2015. I think that team in Portland, I think we're the last seed or the second to last seed to get in there, but the chemistry in
Mhm.
that group was just so good. On top of having, Adi was just balling at that point, Fernando
Yep.
Adi, and then we had
Dude, he was a
the
handful, man.
yeah, and we had the great Diego Valeri, Chara. So it was great, man. It was great. Will Johnson was there. He got injured, but obviously having Will there as well, his leadership.
You guys had a
So
squad that year.
yeah, it's just A lot
Rodney
of good players.
Wallace,
I
was he
think
on the
about
left? He was on the left,
Rodney
right?
was there, had a
Yeah.
goal in the finals. Man, my God, I miss Rodney.
Legend.
But I know crazy.
Tico Rodney.
Yeah, me and Dax almost played together actually, Dan.
Where?
If not for Rod in Portland.
That's right.
Really?
That's right. You know
Yeah.
that, dude. Expansion draft, baby.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Expansion
right.
draft, man. I was,
Mhm.
man. I think back to that, and I'm like, oh, DC was great because then it led me to Red Bull, and Red Bull was awesome. It was a great time in my career. And I
Mhm.
always think about sometimes, what if Portland wouldn't have traded me? I would have been able to play with Diego Chara and Darlington Nagbe in a midfield for
Dude.
a couple of years in my prime. Wow, what an experience that would have been. Maybe I would have had an MLS Cup. Maybe Darlington would have led me to an MLS Cup that I so greatly miss. But man, that was
Maybe
was
next year, Dax.
Yeah. Who knows, man? You never know. I got an opening
know.
on the hands.
Never know.
Hey, D, talk about. I want to hear about the insider perspective on Cucho because I covered a couple of your games this summer, and man, he seems, and I'm hoping that you're going to corroborate this, but he seems like a killer, and he seems like he's got that just natural instinct that I feel like we saw from Joseph Martinez that you obviously played with, but I mean, I watched that over and over and over again, week in and week out, and him just show up to perform. And I feel like Cucho has very similar attributes.
Yeah, that's when he first came, I didn't want to compare him to Joseph because Joseph is Joseph, and what he did,
Sure.
in that amount of time that I was with him was it was just amazing. So I didn't want to compare him when he first came, but I saw the same. Like you said, I see the similarities between them. Clinical and chances that you get, it's a goal, shoot on
Yep.
sight. You know what I mean? Like that killer, strike him, and he's gonna put his head where it needs to be put to get that goal.
Yes.
So probably similar type players. I don't want to compare them too much. Probably Joseph was probably just had more experience at the time when I met Joseph versus when Cucho
Right.
came in.
Right.
But I think Cucho, as you can see this year, he's growing into that player. He's outside the box. He can strike a ball, but then he's also inside the box. He's going to finish his chances. And he's a killer also. So that's the thing that we all love about him, not just in the games but in training. He wants to win in training.
Yeah, sorry, brother. Sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. But yeah, no,
dude,
similar guys. Seriously,
I was thinking about kind of the similarities between the 3 MLS Cup teams you were on, and for me, you hit on it a little bit. Each team had elite strikers playing at crazy high levels, and I think for me, the one thing I look back on in the teams that I played on, the lack of success that we have had has been we haven't had our guys get hot, right? And I look at Adi on fire in the playoffs, right? You had Joseph, couldn't miss, right? Scoring goals for fun. And now you have Cucho, who's been playing at an MVP level for the last, who knows, 3-4 months, right? I mean, you need that. You need your best players to be your best players in the playoffs and step up in those big moments. And so for me, I look at all those teams that you were on, and I think, okay, yeah, there are little subtle differences here and there between the style of play. I look at your Columbus team, and it's more of a question about Wilfred, right? Nancy and what he's come in and been able to do. I look at your Columbus team, like your Portland team. I feel like you guys were structurally really solid, maybe a little bit more defensive minded, maybe, right? Yeah, you had Valeri, everything went through Valeri. Then you go to your Atlanta team, right? You guys were high octane, high press, get the ball to Miguel and just go, right? Have Joseph go, Tito Villalba, just pace, speed. I look at your Columbus team and I'm like, man, they have little differences between those two teams, but I think you're just a more complete, well put together team, and you play a completely unique structure and style. And what I mean by that is you're playing 3 center backs, and sometimes they're not even center backs; they're midfielders. I see your wing backs are wingers, right? And
to be fair, Leandro Perez was basically a winger as well.
Yeah. Leandro Gonzalez Perez would be perfect for this system because I see guys like Morera and guys like Amundsen who play center back for you guys. They are literally on top of the box, on top of the opposition box, and I know that comes from coaching. I just am curious if you could go into a little bit of detail about Wilfred and how he has changed the mentality in Columbus, how he changed the formation, the style, to get you guys humming on all cylinders. Because for me, aesthetically, the way that you guys play, you guys are the most fun team to watch in MLS in terms of chances created, goal scoring ability. Like, I just want to know how Wilfred has come in and just been able to turn that switch and turn that screw for you guys so effectively.
I think you said he come in look like you said. I think one big one is the positioning. And I think you see guys sometimes or teams when they play three in the back, they have three center backs. Whereas we have our outside center backs or outside backs. So
Yeah.
Morera he can go. At times he's outside center back, but he can creep up. He can step up with the ball. He can play wide and make that overlap. Same with
Yep.
Hamilton on the left side. Same thing. Similar type profiles, and those guys, they have pace. They're strong. They can defend 1v1, and then I think that's probably a big difference between our team and a lot of teams that play three in the back. We have
Yep.
we have one center back there.
Yep.
holding
You
it
guys
down.
play with a goalkeeper, a center back, and then like 7 attacking players. It's incredible.
Mhm. And then, but saying that, this is where he comes in because he's okay. We're gonna play like this. When the ball turns over, everyone's got to get back.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to get after. You know what I mean?
Darlington,
And
I
think
remember specifically playing you guys. So the first game we played against you guys this year
Yeah.
in Nashville, it was one of our best performances of the season, and we were able to win that game. We scored on a bunch of set pieces, but the way that we were able to actually win that game was, and I thought we played pretty well, we were able to neutralize the things that you do well and Aiden Morris, right? We really focused on trying to shut you and Aiden down, and I felt like that was effective, and it helped us win the game. Fast forward to when we played you guys in Columbus a few months later, you guys ended up beating us. I think it was 1 or 2-0. I remember seeing your lineup come out that day, and my jaw was on the floor. I was like, these guys are absolutely insane. I think Aiden Morris was actually with the national team at the time.
Oh yeah,
and I'm
that's
like,
right,
I wonder who they're gonna play in midfield. Bro, you guys started with your two wing backs. It was like Yaboa, and I don't think you had Gressel at the time. I think it was Farsi. So 2 very aggressive wing backs. And like, you started Cucho, Zelarayan, Christian Ramirez. I'm like, who's playing next to Darlington? Matan was playing
every attacking option.
literally
Just throw
every
them all on
attacking
it.
option on the roster. I'm like, they're playing Matan as an 8 next to Darlington. I'm like, these guys do not give an F about what we're doing going the other way. They are literally going for it. And I'm like, man, I love that. Secretly, I was like, all right, this is a little bit alarming, and hopefully we can hit them in transition. But like, if you are going to be that aggressive and play that many attacking players, every single one of those attacking players has to have the mindset of, all right, I'm going to recover, I'm going to defend, because if we do that, we are going to have a lot of joy going forward. And I just remember thinking, man, I mean, we lost the game, and I think, you guys had about 80% possession, but I just remember thinking, I love how aggressive your coach is and how much confidence he's putting into your players to really be the aggressor at home. Do you remember that? Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I remember that game. That was the first time they put him next to me. I was like, oh,
you
man.
were probably like, what is going on right now?
I was like, oh man, I know my outside center backs are going.
Yeah.
I know I got Matan next to me, so it was like, man, like
If
we lose the ball, we got to win it right back.
Responsibilities for you.
It is. I think we had Sean Zawoski was playing behind me, I think, at the time. I think in the middle center back. So yeah, I remember talking to him. I was like, hey, like let's just be locked in. You know what I mean? Let's just be locked in, make sure defensively transition. We just cut those out, And I think when it comes back to Wilfred, I think that's where he's been huge. Okay, we're gonna play this way, but you guys have to accept responsibility also. If we're gonna play like this and attack like that and play this way, we can only do it if everyone buys into it. Not just the back line and the the 6 and the 8, but no, like Cucho as well. Hey, when it turns over, you got to get there or you got to get back. So I think everyone's coming in, everyone's bought into it, and I think he's kind of giving guys that freedom, to just be free, express yourself, try things. And with that, like I said, responsibility. We're gonna try things, but when it turns over, hey, we all got to get back. Either we win it or we get back. So I think that's one thing that's one way we've really grown. I think throughout the season, I think a lot in the beginning we focused a lot on playing and making it look good and doing all that, which we did. But I think now we've evolved and grown in the sense where now we have 10 guys that are getting behind the ball and working and trying to win that ball back. I think you can really see our growth with that. And also, I think we'll go. And this other point, recognize the moments. When do we go and when do we break?
Yep.
When do we go? When we let the team to breathe and catch up? You know what I mean? So I think he's done a great job. That's why coaching is tough, man. I think we have guys that think they can just go and coach. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of those guys that believe I can just stop right now and go and coach and do things like that.
It's a craft. It's a different craft.
I'm telling you, man. Just seeing how he's, not just him, but I've had good coaches. I've been lucky enough, but just seeing how they kind of put things together, throughout the season, how they're patient with certain things, introduce different things to the team at a certain point.
Yep.
I think it's been great, and it's been great to see kind of him do that. I think it's only his third season, right, as a head coach. So
Yep.
I think for him, yeah. So
Yeah.
for him to come in and obviously last year a great season he had in Montreal, and then he's doing it again this year with us. So yeah,
I
and
love
all the
I,
guys.
I love that. I love the fact that he puts trust and faith in you guys. He gives you
Hmm.
a platform and he says, "We'll play this way," because
Hmm.
every player, every team says the same thing. We want
Yeah.
to play an up tempo, attractive,
Active.
attacking style of soccer. Every team says that.
Hmm.
Every
Yeah.
coach says that. Every GM says that.
Yep.
Not a lot of them follow through on that.
Yep.
Seriously,
Hmm.
not a lot of
Well,
them
because
put
you
their
got to
money
get
where their mouth
results.
is.
That's the thing.
Exactly, but you have to be able to. For me, it's like you have to be able to get results. You have to be able to coach up the system that you want to play to the point
Mhm.
where like the players buy into it so much it's second nature, right? And that
Hmm.
to me looks like what Columbus is doing, right? They
Hmm.
know the system. They don't change the system for anyone. They
Hmm.
don't go to four in the back. They
Mhm.
when they're on the road, they play the same way every single time. And to me, that is a difficult thing to do because in MLS, you're right, Dan. I think it is going more results based. There's more pressure on coaches than ever before. I think there's more coaching vacancies now than ever before because
Yeah.
the pressure is higher. And
League's
so
changing.
it is changing. And I look at what Wilfred Nancy did with this Columbus team, and I'm like, man, that is a hell of a job, right? And like, I don't know if he was a finalist for Coach of the Year. If he wasn't, he should have been, because
Mhm.
the job he's done in Columbus has been fantastic. And quite honestly, I know we're going to get into a little bit of the Eastern Conference Final here, the Cincinnati game coming up, but what you guys have been able to do, man, second half of the season, especially just me being a fan of the league and fan of teams, I've enjoyed watching you guys.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Yes,
also
sir.
had some pretty impressive players like
For
on the
sure.
field because for having these systems and these styles of play, you also and Darlington, you guys are talking about the specific game. Like you have to have that awareness of reading the game as well, which like a
Hmm.
coach can certainly set it up and set up the tactics and set up the approach. And if you want to continue to stay the course and keep that style game in and game out, but you're reading different player profiles the entire time you set up, right? I mean, having the amount of attacking options on the field, we all know that you can attack and you can score goals and you can be that facilitator, but you can also play the six too. And I
Hmm.
think what I would like to hear from you, D, and I know that this really isn't in your DNA to pump your
Hmm.
own your own highlights, but I want to hear just kind of how you feel like you fit into this specific team because I feel like
Hmm.
we've kind of watched. I mean, I haven't been your teammate, but I've watched you
Hmm.
progress as a player throughout this league and throughout your time
Hmm.
in the league, and you've been successful every step of the way. But do you feel like you're still the same player? Do you feel like your role has evolved into a different way that you see the game or you see yourself fitting in? And how does that work within this Columbus team specifically?
I'll say kind of now, like I touched on earlier, kind of being, one of the older guys in the team is, I think like my role's changed in that sense. Whereas, before I would look up to, Parker. So I look up to Jeff, Lorenowitz, guys
Sure.
like that, or Charles Overlay. I looked at them for advice and leadership. Whereas now, along with a couple other guys in the team, we're the ones that some of the guys are coming to looking for answers in leadership. So I'll say
Mhm.
probably it's changed in that way. And then playing wise, it's just kind of, I don't know if what's changed too much, but I've always been the type that focus, I focus on my teammates. And then I try to
Right.
focus on my game second because I think the more we can get everyone going on, firing on this on the same cylinders, firing on all cylinders. I think the more you got, instead of having one guy play great, it doesn't matter where you're gonna have, 10 guys, 8, 7 guys, giving you an 8 or 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
for
just feel like
sure.
the more guys that you can have playing at a certain level, the better your chances are to win. That's kind of how I've approached it, making sure I always sacrifice parts of my game to make sure, someone else has a good game. And at the end
Do
of the
you
day, I kind of
feel
look
do
at
you
it
feel
as,
more empowered that like, your veteran leadership is
mhm,
on the field now? I mean, you're the captain, right?
yeah, yeah,
You like,
more empowered.
do you feel that sense of responsibility on the field?
Uh, I'll say I've always felt it, whether I've been the captain or not,
Yeah.
no matter who's been around me. I think I've always felt it just because of how my game is, I feel like I can be a guy that can get on the ball and do certain things, but at the same time, I can sacrifice that and do other things, do the dirty work if that needs to be done as well. So
Yeah.
I feel like some of my teammates have appreciated that, I think this maybe some of them see the sacrifice that I have made in the past that I continue to make to make sure that the team is successful. I think that pushes the guys in a different type of way. Maybe not verbally, not verbal leadership, but kind of making sure I'm doing certain things and certain type of work that kind of makes them okay. This guy's sacrificing and doing certain things, and I can do that too. Or I can do a little bit more. I can do this or that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So as a leader,
Mhm.
have you ever gone into a referee's locker room and and gone after these guys? What dude, what the hell is going on? Because this bouncing ball is extremely difficult to follow right now, and I can only
Mhm.
imagine how Wilfred and you guys are trying to plan for this because it seems like this is not even something that's resolved yet. And for those of you
Mhm.
that don't know what we're talking about Matt Miazga being suspended for an additional 3 games, which now everyone on the Cincy side is, and the players union, the Players Association came out with another statement today, but basically saying that like everything that these referees are saying is complete BS outside of him actually
So,
walking into the room. So,
mhm.
Dax, have you read this statement? Have
I
you read the
did.
statement from the PA?
I read the
D,
statement.
have you seen the statement from the PA?
No, I haven't seen it. I heard the guy talking about it, but I didn't see it.
I
So
mean,
they just basically came out and were like, we elected to stay quiet through the process, which is kind of standard operating procedure for the PA. But now that it's completed and they're suspending
Mhm.
him, they said that they have footage of basically refuting what the referees said. They're now calling the referees out and saying that this is now a matter of integrity because they're essentially lying about what
Mhm.
happened. And they want it, and they called out the league too in saying that they didn't take any of this evidence into account when they handed down the additional 3-game suspension for
Mhm.
Miazga.
pretty aggressive.
Very aggressive,
Yeah.
which like
There's only one
I don't
solution.
hate it. I kind of like it.
There's only one solution. You got to release the tapes. You know,
Hey,
you
yeah.
got to
Hey,
release the tapes.
let the public see.
Let the
Let the
public
public
see.
decide. Well,
That's what I'm
Noonan,
saying.
I mean, Noonan was the first one to comment on it. He was like, none of this is accurate. Miazga went in like 2 hours after the game with a pizza box, like just going to have a chat with the ref, which like brings up a bigger question. Are we doing enough to hold these referees accountable? And should they be held accountable in any way? Because it is a slippery slope, right? Like I don't think that we can retroactively ask them to describe every decision that they make in a game. But I also feel like there's a complete lack of accountability right now
Mhm.
in anybody saying anything. And if there's this organization, right? There's a professional referees pro organization, whatever it is, which I don't know if you watch any of this stuff, but I feel like I see referees on CBS, or they're on like Christina Uncle, or she's on or somebody else is on the league roundtable in kind
Mhm.
of explaining some of these decisions. Why can't that be on the weekend? Like, why can't that be active within a game? As players, do
Yeah.
you guys feel like today with VAR and with these like major decisions that are obviously now significantly affecting playoffs and potential MLS Cup, should they
Mhm.
be held accountable to explain their thought process?
Yeah, I think so. I think even if it's not, I don't know what you can do, to punish them for bad calls and things like that. Like I don't know about all that, but like you said, I think they could give interviews. Maybe not right after the game. We have to do it right after the game. Coaches
Right.
have to do it right after the game, but I think they can give interviews, and people that are interested in it will watch it and go and pay attention to it. If you don't care what the ref has to say, you just won't watch it. But I think you can give them, even if you want to give them a day or whatever, let them come back midweek or whatever it is after they've watched the game again or watched some of those calls, and let them, just say what they thought on that play. So now we know what the referees are thinking and what they're seeing. That way we
Yeah,
know we both get a better understanding of each other, I'd say.
I think
Uh-huh.
that I think
This
that
is very
human.
politically correct. I like that,
No,
Darlington.
I think he's right though. I think that human aspect of it is important, right? Is to see that these aren't robots; these are human beings making decisions that sometimes they get right, sometimes they get wrong. And I think there have been steps taken to help with that transparency, i.e., let us listen in on the VAR conversations, how those go
Mhm.
down, right?
Yeah, why
Like
not?
and I think that's a really big step that they can take to do it like in real time, right? I don't know if they do it in the Premier League yet, but like I think it'd be great if the broadcast could straight up cut to what the refs are talking about, what they're hearing in real time during VAR calls, even during the broadcast. Like
Before you
mic up
finish,
the
Dax,
refs.
let me add just one little color to that, because as a broadcaster, we get very little information of like
Right.
live decision making, what's going on, what
Right.
they're looking at, and they've gotten better, but there's still a point. Like there was a point where I was calling a Chicago game and I walked down to the VAR because we're sitting there with no clue. And I went down at halftime and I was like, hey, what was the decision?
Yeah.
And why did you guys, what were you looking at? Because we didn't know. We didn't have any information. And they got very upset. They were like, "You can't come in here. You gotta get out of here."
Wow.
And I was, "Oh, okay." I mean, we're just trying, we're just trying to deliver this information to other people. But I mean, even the offside call in the Philly game, the Philly Cincy game, that
Right.
causes a pretty big uproar, causes a pretty big stir. One way or the other, you can argue both sides of that, whether he's offside or onside. Why won't they just show you? Like,
Yeah.
why can't we just go in there and see that, or at least see the angles that they're looking at?
And I think that's where we're headed. And as far as like accountability, I do think at least this is what we're told is that referees, when they make big decisions or bad calls or mismanage a game, they're docked MLS games, right? They lose a couple games and they go down to USL, or they're just off for a few weekends. I'm not sure, but like, to me, the bigger issue with regard to the Miazga situation is just the nature of what the refs are saying and what Cincinnati's saying, right? Like, surely, like, the truth is, it probably lies somewhere in the middle, right? And I think Matt would probably admit, hey, I was wrong.
Sure.
I shouldn't have gone into the referee's locker room. And now, look, it's a big decision. I've played with Matt both in the national team and at Red Bull, and part of what makes him so good is he's got this like Jersey aura about him, right? Like F you. Like, I'm gonna come
Yep.
and I'm gonna steal your lunch money and steal your lunch and I'm gonna beat you. And like, that's part of his persona. That's part of what's taken him to the next level. He's played in Europe. He's played for the national team, right? And
Mhm.
so obviously it's hard to turn that off. But when you're off the field and the frustration seemingly has settled down, you would think, hey, there's nothing good that can come out of going into the referee's locker room, whether you want to like talk to him or not. If you happen to run into him when he's leaving the stadium and you talk to him on the field again, that's one thing. But you can't go into the referee locker room no matter what. So for me, I think that I don't have an issue with the suspension, if I'm being honest, because no player is allowed to do that or should do that. But the
Mhm.
characterizations of like how it went down, yeah, of course you can always quibble with a little bit of that. I'm curious, D. I'm sure you guys were preparing accordingly, and you guys aren't changing your game plan too much. But how do you think this changes things for the final coming up? Obviously, you guys have to go to Cincinnati. You've been there before. It's a big time derby. Hell is real. You played some really good games with Cincinnati in the past, and we've talked about them plenty on the pod. I think as a pure number 10, Lucho Acosta is one of the best in the league. Clearly, he was the MVP this year. That's going to fall on you and Aiden Morris's shoulders to try to contain him and control him. I'm curious how, if the Miazga suspension, if it affects your guys' game plan at all, or just generally how you guys are approaching the game plan, because I'm sure it's going to be the same as you guys always want to play.
And there's another thing you'll like about Coach too, about Nancy. He doesn't really, he kind of focuses on us.
I
Like
love
you
that.
said,
I love it.
he focuses
It's
on
not that
us.
surprising, is it?
No.
Yeah, I think if you hear him talk, everything is always like focus on the process, focus on us, control. You can control the opponent is the opponent. So I
Great.
think news came out today. He didn't really. We went out to train and he didn't say anything about it.
I love it.
So yeah, he didn't say anything about it. So whether he will say something about it, probably be I'm not sure, but I'm sure he has his plans, he has his thoughts,
Sure.
but he doesn't want to. He doesn't seem like the type of guy or the coach, from the past year that I've known that wants to kind of say something about it to make it seem that it might be harder or it might be easier, any type of
Right.
way, because you know what I mean. Because who
Yep.
knows? Because I think he knows he's thoughtful and thinks about these things. They might rally up and try to play for Matt. You
Sure.
know, so he
Sure.
doesn't want to make it seem that okay, the next guy that steps in won't be able to do a job. He might go in there and be the best player in the game. Who knows? So I think he hasn't addressed it. Obviously, Matt's a big time player for them, and a great defender. So we'll see how it goes.
The last one for me, and we'll get you out of here. But I think
My son just showed up.
Dax and I will
Hey,
both be.
what's up, bro?
There he
How we
is.
doing?
Say hi.
What jersey? What jersey you rocking? Yeah.
Ah,
Good man.
Hold on, wait, hold on. I've got a messy jersey. Let me run and go grab it. We'll put it on.
Dax,
We'll be
go
Messy
get yours
Jersey
on.
brothers. Cool. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You excited to watch Dad this weekend?
Yes.
You think he's gonna win?
Yeah.
Okay, I think so too.
What position you play? You play the
Six?
six?
Okay. Well, there's
You're a good man.
There's 3 6s on this pod right now. I love it.
He plays number 6 for Nashville. Oops.
Yeah, your
Big
dad gets
guy.
the best of me these days, but back when I was younger,
Yeah.
I could take him.
Love you, man.
Go ahead, Garks. Let's get him out of here
Dude,
on this one.
Yeah, we'll get you out of here on this. But I
Mhm.
I know Dax and I are both gonna be watching the game.
Mhm.
Why will you beat Cincinnati? Like what part of this game for you do you feel like if you can succeed in this area of the game that help us watch for certain cues here for this upcoming match? What are you looking for to be successful?
No, I think like you guys said it, Acosta obviously one of the best 10s, if not the best 10 in the league. So I think controlling him, and then make sure that we control the game as well. So like I talked about, before and how the team has grown defensively. I think we've really grown defensively. We've always been a good attacking team, but I think defensively we've really grown. So how do we control Acosta and then on the attacking end, continue to do what we're doing if possible. And then when we get chances, make sure we take care of them. It'll be hostile, tough environment to go in and play. Last time we were there, it was a wild game actually. We were down 2, tied up 2-2, and then they came out in the end 3-2. At home, we had the best of them. I think it was 3-0, I think. So no, it'll be a good game. It'll be a good game. I like Acosta, I like
Yeah.
Acosta. I like him. Even when he was at his DC days, I've always liked him. So and for me personally, it was good to see 2 Ohio teams going at it, being from Ohio.
Yeah.
2 nice stadiums, Eastern Conference final. Like,
Yep.
it doesn't get any better than that. It'll be a good game.
No, it's a big game, man, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to watching. I'm looking forward to watching, and I think it would be pretty cool to see you win another ring. And I'm going to put it out there. Darlington Nagbe gets his 4th ring. He's already in the pantheon of greatest midfielders to ever play in MLS. But a 4th ring, I don't know, Dan. We need to start having conversations about best midfielder to ever play in MLS.
I was gonna say, man. I mean, I was thinking that when I was running down your accomplishments and thinking about, we've talked on this pod a lot about what it means to be a journeyman and kind of the way that the American player kind of has progressed through the system. And you have to be, if not the best example of a player.
Poster child.
Yeah, the poster child of just coming up in our system and having success and continuing to do it. I mean, obviously we were chatting a little bit about your decision to not go to Europe, and a lot of players either have at minimum just the opportunity to consider that, which is a great honor. But to make the decision to stay here and to stay in this league, I think with your talent and with your ability and your presence within the league and what you've kind of committed to the American game, I think is massive. And it's massive for kids that are going to follow all of us and go the college route or do whatever it is they do, whether that's the academy route and knowing that you can still find success and still kind of stick to your craft. It's nothing short of impressive, D. And we're honored to have you here and have a chat, and hopefully you'll be back with us maybe next week and talking about a W, getting prepped for MLS Cup.
Is Darlington going to be our Aaron Rodgers? We'll do Nagbe Thursdays.
Nagbe Thursdays.
Yeah,
well, we just got a new deal, so we shouldn't have to pay
Darlington, you have to come on the pod one more time just so we can hear Gordo talk about how much you love him.
Yeah, let's do it next week. We'll set it.
Hey, D, honestly, from my perspective, thanks a lot for coming on, man. It's always a pleasure hearing from you. It's a pleasure talking to you. It's not so fun playing against you these days with my older legs. You're still like a robot, but best of luck, man. We'll be watching.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys, man. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
All right, brother. Enjoy your kids, man.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
Good luck, pal.
Thanks.